Okay, guys, welcome to another episode. Today, we thought we would change it up a little bit and start with a segment where we're just going to talk about what we are watching, what we're reading. And this actually goes out to Colin Green, who has always told us that we should just chill in the beginning of the episodes and banter a little more. So, okay, start with what you're watching.
Okay, that's a confusing one because we
Okay.
just stopped watching.
It's a simple answer.
I know, but we
It's a
just stopped
simple
watching Yellow
answer.
Jackets, and because of Colin's schedule, I actually don't watch TV on my own, which I want to change that. I do want to change that. I've only watched a couple of series on my own. I want to start watching TV shows when he's gone.
It's okay to have different interests and hobbies than your husband.
I have a hard time turning my TV on if it's not on the right app, and that's the absolute truth.
Okay.
So because of that,
So
I
you
usually
watched
read.
Yellow Jackets.
Watch Yellow Jackets.
Did you like it? What is that?
The first season,
I've never even...
the first season was really good. The second
What
season
genre?
got pretty dark. It's about a soccer team that lands in the middle of nowhere, and then they have to figure out how to survive. So a high school
that's
soccer
kind
team.
of like, what was that one that used to be really big on TV?
Is there another one like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like the same plot.
Is it?
And also Gilligan's Island.
I mean, if you're going that way. So yeah, the first season was really good. It hooked us in. The second season, it got pretty dark.
Okay.
And
I
we
imagine
felt kind
things
of
would get
weird.
dark.
And then the third one, extra dark. But
Okay.
I'm wondering, I'm kind of committed. So it's not going to come up for a while. But last night, Colin and I literally sat down and I said, we need to find a new show because we're actually here together. And then he ended up watching some alien show that we will not be continuing.
Okay.
And then it's football season. So Thursdays and Sundays and Mondays, Colin will be wanting to watch some football. And I do not partake in those unless I'm sitting next to him. Last night I just sat next to him and read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about for you?
Okay, so you guys all, or most of you should know that I really like reality TV. When people are like, I don't like it, I'm like, I couldn't care less. I like it. It's fun to me to watch. So right now, I actually am watching the McBee Dynasty, which is about these cowboys from Missouri. And it's just really interesting. I saw on TikTok, I saw this woman that used to be in the industry. So she was like a reality TV producer. And she said the reason it's so good is because it hasn't gone to their head yet. So for example, for the other listeners that watch reality TV, for example, like Real Housewives, most of them have been on for 10 seasons. They know how the plot lines go. They know how to get more airtime. Like they just know how to kind of work that. And the McBee Dynasty, like they say things they shouldn't say. They they act like their normal selves. It's a very different way of life. So it's been really interesting. The thing, some people don't like it because they don't treat their girlfriends and wives very well, which obviously I'm against. But it's interesting because they're very like open and honest about that. Like they'll be like, I don't want a girlfriend. I'm not going to get married. And then it's the woman thinking that she can change the man.
Okay. So they have awareness of it.
Yes. And it's actually a really good lesson. I mean, most of our listeners, I think, are in long-term relationships, but you have to believe someone when they're telling you like, I don't want this, or like, I'm not going to change this about myself. And you can't, make them change. Even if you're the
best of the
best catch out there.
We couldn't be more different with our watching. I've watched.
Well, we've watched some overlapping. Like I do. The thing about me is I watch a lot of different things.
Okay.
So I'm not, you can't pin me down. Like I'll be watching reality for a whole season of something. And then I'll go into the next thing I want to watch is that documentary about the high school catfish. And I want to watch that. And then I'll watch that. And then and then I watch Hard Knocks with Drew, which is a NFL football show. I'll watch anything, honestly. Like Game of Thrones, I watched every episode. So I'm really a mixed bag when it comes to music, comes to TV, comes to books. Like I'll kind of consume all. And I like that.
Besides really scary stuff.
Oh yeah, I don't like that at all.
That's my favorite.
And I hate when people try to convince you of something you don't like. I'm like, I've literally watched it. I don't like it. I
don't need to watch it.
I don't need it. I don't have anxiety and I'm not looking to get it. Like I feel good about that decision. So other than like really scary stuff, really gory stuff.
The gory, I get that too. I don't like
I'm pretty much in. I find a lot of things interesting. Okay, what are you reading?
It's called Under Your Scars, and this is a different one for
Okay.
me. It's I would think it would be called dark
Is it fiction
romance.
or nonfiction?
It's fiction, and it's
Okay.
dark romance, and Colin so we were watching TV last night, I was reading next to him, and he looked over and read a few of the pages on my Kindle, and he goes, "Abby, what are you reading? Because it will make your intimacy life look vanilla." Like, that's the only way I can say it.
Oh,
It's very interesting. I just haven't read those types of
so
books.
it's not, like, smutty, it's, like,
Smutty.
erotic?
It's smutty, but the stuff that they do is yes, is very different than the stuff that Colin and I are used to, I guess. So, just lots of words, lots of, yeah,
Descriptors?
lots of descriptors.
Okay.
It's pretty in depth, and then there's a lot of murder and that type of stuff, just along with it. So, it's an interesting book. It's a very
Okay.
long book. It's kept my attention, but it's just very different. What about for you?
So for books, I'm either reading a book and flying through it or I'm not reading, and you're catching me in a not reading
Okay.
time.
Mhm.
I just read One Golden Summer
Oh, so
by
good.
Carly Fortune. Is that how
Mhm.
you say it?
I think we either say Fortune or
I don't
Fortune,
know how
that
to say
one.
her
We
last
love
name.
her,
We
we
love
love her.
her. Love her. And so I started another one by her because I enjoyed that one so much. A lot of times in reading, I really do like something that's more light, romantic. I don't need it to be super smutty by any means. I feel like she has a really nice
She has a good
level because it's
combination.
not like
Mhm.
crazy where you would blush if someone read what you were reading. So I started This Summer Will Be Different by her.
Okay, okay.
But I haven't started, like, really getting into it, and
And
this is what I do, this is perfectly me. I'm either honestly flying through a book, reading it every single day, or I'm not reading.
and is this different characters than One Golden Summer?
That I don't know.
Okay,
I
okay,
have no idea
we're
what's
getting into
happening,
it.
and I'm hoping like, I do often Google what order to read books in, because some of hers
Yes,
are
yes,
series,
yes.
so hopefully that makes sense, but I don't know.
To be continued,
But
to be
it's like,
continued.
I don't know, they're not super complex, so
No, and
you
if you read
could
them out of order,
yeah.
you might have one secret that you already
One
know
yeah,
about, but
yeah.
yeah.
You're like, "Oh, okay." Um, so yeah, let us know if you have any other fun questions you could think of for the beginning of our episodes. We won't do it every time, but I
Mhm.
think it is fun to just be like, "Okay, what's going on? What are we watching? What's happening?" So, the actual episode today is about specifically marriages. And these are things we've talked about before, but Abby and I often are contemplating, you know what? What happens, I think, so many times is we forget about the values of our marriage in a way of like, they could really anchor you. Like, it
Mhm.
could really help you get through a conflict. It could help you get through a hard time. Like, you have to revisit these things. So, that's what I would say. But also, what we've been talking about a lot lately is when one or both partners are experiencing stress. I think that's when you forget the things that you actually already know. Like you forget to slow down, recenter yourselves, and get on a better page. And that's where I think things can kind of go off course a little bit.
Yeah.
So these are the things that we have learned in our marriages and the things that we have to even remind ourselves. Like these are our true beliefs, but there's just sometimes where you want to weasel out of something. You know what I mean? So I'll start with one where that statement's going to make sense. So my first one is that you have to stand by your core marriage values, even when it's uncomfortable. And actually, one example that came to mind that will paint this one really easily and clear for you guys is that if you've been listening for a long time, you know that Drew and I believe in financial transparency, which basically means that we are married. We believe that all the money that comes into the house is ours together. We believe that we should be honest and open with each other. We believe that we shouldn't have financial secrets. And that was just one of the things that we decided on before we got married, and we have stuck to that. Now, there's times where and if you've listened for a long time, you know that I used to really struggle with how to manage money and didn't have a good relationship with spending, and I had shame and these types of things. And being married to Drew, especially actually when we first got together, I was like, "Oh my
Mm.
gosh, I knew I loved him very early on, and I was like, "If I wanna lock this guy in, I do think that this is gonna be a big difference for us." Like, he was very, very good with money, and I wasn't when we started
And so you
dating.
could see that even when you're
Oh,
dating.
yeah, to the point I don't think I've ever told this before. I went I didn't even have a credit card because I always had debit cards, and I always just managed my money in that type of way. And now I'm not like pro credit card, but I literally didn't have credit. I didn't have credit to my name.
Mhm.
And I'm just thinking of my future like, okay, in 5 years, I want to buy a house. Like, how am I going to do that if I don't even have credit? So then I went to the bank and I had to have this like baby credit card where I think my limit was $500, but I had to start using it and paying my bill to be able to build credit. So I did that as Drew and I are like starting to date. Cause in my head, I'm like, okay, this is something I want to work on for myself, but I could see how a future partner would care about this. Most partners don't want you to be not good with money. Most
Right.
partners
It
need
affects
you
them.
to
It
have
affects
credit.
them. Yeah,
Yeah.
it affects them.
So when we started dating and stuff, we're like, okay, we're going to be really open with each other because then when you decide to marry someone, like you should know what position they are in, what position you are in, how you're going to go through life. So that's when we started these financial meetings that we've talked about. And we've been really honest with each other since that point. I would show up to the meeting, my heart would be beating fast, my palms would be sweaty. Like it was a really big change for me because everything before that, I could just do myself. Like I didn't need to run it by anyone. So, all of that to say, that is very healed. Like now I know that I'm good with money. I know that I'm working towards our goals. I know that what we're doing, we have a plan. We're executing our plan. Like it doesn't feel that stressful anymore. But there are certain things that come up that make me revert back. So, for example, this past month, my personal credit card was a little bit higher than normal. And it does feel like I'm going to the principal's office when he asks for my because and then we pay our credit card in full. So I have to tell him the amount because it's going to come out of our bank account and he's going to see that. And I was joking with
I
Abby.
was
I'm
gonna say
like,
I was part of this whole
yeah,
thing.
I'm
So
like, I'm gonna pay. Wait, should I just pay the statement balance? You know, because there's your current balance, which we pay off our current balance, but there's a statement balance, which that's actually all you have to pay.
yep, and there's no interest involved in that
Right. So
one.
I'm like, wait, should I just pay my statement balance? Like, oh my God. Like, I was scared I was going to get in trouble. And then I was like, okay, mm, I did this. So I need to tell him the amount. I need to tell him why it's higher than normal. And I just have to face it head on. So it's like you might have that feeling in your marriage sometimes where you're like, oh my gosh, I just don't want to tell them. And it's a marital subject. Like, you have to tell them. Like, say one of your kids does something and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to tell Colin. I don't want to tell Drew. And you want to keep it a secret because you think in your head, like, oh, that could be easier. But what I found is that you really do have to just face the
You do.
music and you still have to be honest, even when it's harder to be honest. And that was something we decided on together from the beginning of our marriage. We're going to stick to it. So I've got to keep sticking to it, even when it's harder.
So then when you told him what the credit card amount was, how did he respond?
He was totally fine. Like,
You built this all up
I
in your
build
mind.
it up in my
Mhm.
head because it's like I really do want to be a really good partner in a financial sense. And it's really important to us. And it's something that honestly, because we have these systems and these conversations and this honesty, we never fight about money. So then I just feel like I'm part of the team and I want to be a really good player. And so if I spend more than I normally do, it just makes me feel like, shoot, I'm not doing my part. But there were some unique charges that I could speak to. So that's what I've always said. Like, if you struggle with money or you have struggled with money or whatever, I'm to a point now where I can really stand by most of the things that I buy and say, yes, like this is exactly what I spent. Now, on our personal credit cards, we don't look at each other's statements. So there is some freedom there because I think a lot of people think, oh my gosh, I don't want my partner to see every single charge. Like Drew and I have freedom to have personal credit cards that we pay off, but we're both expecting each other to stay within, the limits.
I like that setup, and I don't think
Yeah.
that many couples do it that way. I think they
No, I
think that
don't think
financial
so.
transparency has to be either all the way, you're looking at every single
Yes.
line item, or you're just kind of flying by the seat of your pants
I
and not
have a lot of
asking.
friends too who, to this day, they keep their finances separate. She has hers, he has his. If they have a mortgage, if they have kids' expenses, like they just literally take it out from either bucket.
Mhm.
I have friends that they do that, they're comfortable with it. I have friends that do that. They're like, "Wait, is he doing okay with his money?" Type
Yeah.
of thing. So, there's a million ways to do it. I'm sharing the way that has worked for us, and it's nice. I do feel like also if I'm hitting this number that I try to stay under, say 10 out of 12 months, like, I feel like I'm earning the trust to be like, "Okay, she's not just doing that all the time. Like, she's really sticking to this for the most part."
Gosh, 24-year-old Amy would be so proud,
I
right? Like,
know! I
looking
would
back,
be
I
so,
do
so
love when you
proud.
bring up finances because I just think it's a growth story,
Yes.
and anybody could be in any position right now listening to the
Right.
podcast, and it's this whole podcast is not about shaming. It's about
No.
becoming aware
Mhm.
and then thinking, "Is this something that I want to work on?"
Yeah.
And with these things that are so important, especially in a partnership, in marriage, in looking at our future, I just love that you've been able to do
I
that.
mean, I had a friend, so I used to talk about finances more on my Instagram account. I had a friend that said, "Your posts and your willingness to be open." She had, I think it was anywhere between 24,000 to $32,000 in secret debt from her husband.
Mhm.
Secret debt, meaning he didn't know about it. And she was able to work really hard and pay that off. Now, I don't know if she came clean to him about it, but the idea of hearing, I have been there. Like, I have been there hiding a Lululemon bag from Drew when we lived in an apartment together. I have been where finances bring a lot of shame and guilt up for me. It's just, it doesn't go away. It's one of those things. It's like the dentist, taxes,
Yeah.
doctors, like
Mhm.
your issues won't go away unless you face them, but facing them can be so hard.
Gosh, and I think that the hardest things, especially in marriages that you want to last for a long time, you're doing it. Like
Yeah.
you're making it known, and that actually brings up my first point because when I was thinking about the things that we've learned in our marriage and the things that we fall back on when we get really stressed out or really busy or life just constantly is throwing uncertain things at you, the thing that I want to bring up is that it's really good to speak up on the things that matter to you, but you can't speak up on everything. And I actually mentioned this one to Colin yesterday because I was, like, thinking about the podcast episode, and he kind of gave me like, "Oh, okay," because he goes, "That is definitely something that you've made a lot of progress on, and you do still speak up on a lot of things." And so
Mm,
how this went was that when we first started dating, everything was, easy breezy. I was trying to be like the cool one. I was not bringing my type A in all the time. And then we got married, and it got a little bit more me, and we started I should say when we got engaged. When we moved in together and got engaged, I started being like a little more particular, wanting things in place. And then it got to a point where when we were trying to get pregnant with Lucy, everything was okay. This is when it has to be done.
mm,
I want this to be done. I'm stressed out about this. Our careers were going at that point. They were definitely getting bigger at that point. We were trying to make this family. We had a house that we were constantly renovating, and it just was really stressful.
mhm.
And that's when I feel like I needed control over something. So I was speaking up over everything. And I know a lot of people can relate to that with when things feel out of control, everything feels like a really big deal. And I feel like I was constantly putting out fires. And then fast forward, I was able to get a little bit better because I knew that it was not helping my marriage. That was probably the most stressful part of our entire marriage was those months leading up to trying to conceive Lucy. But then it felt pretty good for a while. And Colin would agree with that. I will say when I developed my autoimmune condition, it went the exact opposite way, where all of a sudden I had no energy to fight anything. And I think at that point, I started letting some things go that meant something to me, but it was just too hard and took too much energy to bring them up. And I kept on thinking, if that happens again, then I'll talk about it. Okay, if he continues to do that thing, then I'll bring it up. And then the next time I wouldn't bring it up. And it would just fester, and that's when the scorekeeping got really bad. And that's when I felt internally like a lot of things were unstable, but on the outside, I wasn't saying anything about it. And so then I quickly was able to turn my tune after I was able to get some energy back, get on the right supplements, get the right things in order. And not that it went all the way back to where I was, before we got married and when we were trying to have our first baby. I think I'm at a better place right now. Colin still
Mhm.
says I have some work to do. So he's honest about that. But I think that in all of this, really finding your values and then prioritizing those was the most important thing, because I didn't want to go all the way back to nitpicking every single
Mhm.
piece of it. I mean, I brought it up on Instagram before as a joke, like putting your socks in the laundry bin and how you load a dishwasher. I don't care about dishwasher anymore. Like those are things I don't care about anymore. So there's some very basic things that happen on a daily basis, but the things I prioritize. And even if you haven't brought this up in the past, if you're a person that maybe you do let things slide or you're worried that it's going to, make your relationship more rocky, I encourage you to bring those things up. We can always grow. We can always make changes. And I do think it's really important to speak up on the things that matter to you.
I think it's the awareness of your personality type. And I'm not talking about Enneagrams or otherwise. I'm talking about, if you lean towards more of a particular personality, maybe you call it type A, because Drew does the same thing. Like when he's stressed, he starts nitpicking every single
Mhm.
thing around our house, around everything. And it's just like if you had the awareness, like, okay, I know when I'm really stressed, I start to point out everything and make everyone around me feel a little
Mhm.
annoyed. It's just a good it's just a good thing to know. It's a good thing to be like, okay, I know that's what I usually do. I'm going to try to say every 10th thing I think. Like, you
Well, and
just
what helped me is I'll bring it up tonight. So I used to say I'll bring it up at the end of the week when we sit down at our meeting, and then I'd have this laundry list of like hate things of all the things that I was thinking about throughout the week. And instead I just say, I'll bring this up tonight. And
yeah,
usually by the time night comes, it's not that big of a deal. There's a few things that are a big deal,
yeah,
but not everything's a big deal.
yeah. Just what is a big deal and what do you need to communicate versus what is maybe your own personal stress causing you to feel annoyed by everything. It's just a really good practice of like, okay, I've got to learn how to deal with some of this stress so that I'm not taking it out on the other people around me. And at the same time, if your partner is contributing to your stress, it's not wrong to say, babe, I really need you to do a few more things. Okay, my next one, I love this one. Okay, so when I started in my marriage, when we started dating, everything like that, I think that we had a big tendency to look at who's right. So, like, we had a problem, and then it was basically a fight, like a verbal, match. We did sometimes even yell and trying to figure out who's right. And what I've learned, and I don't know who said this the first time, but it's really the two of you versus the problem. It's not Abby versus Colin or Amy versus Drew. It's the couple versus the problem. And if you can really start to navigate the things that come up in your life like that, it is so helpful. I think the thing that brings most of us to our knees is having kids. Like, you no longer have the time, energy, or capacity, at least in my experience, to be at odds with your partner. So you have to figure out a couple ways so that you guys can navigate conflict better, because truly for a couple years for sure it's energy conservation mode. Like, there is just not enough of the mom to go around, and I couldn't be in these fights with Drew or some of the things that the younger Amy would do, such as I wouldn't give him necessarily the silent treatment, but I'd be really short with him.
Okay. Mm.
And like I would just be like, a little bit annoyed and short with him. And like I don't have time to do that anymore. Like, I need his help.
Mhm.
I need to be on the same page. I want to be on the same page. Like, let's figure out how to navigate these conflicts better. And I think, you've probably heard this before, this tip of like seeing it as the two of you versus the problem, but really putting it into practice can be challenging. So, for example, something that always comes up is in-laws and families and the different ways that
Mhm.
they do things. And instead of thinking of it as like, Drew, gosh, your family never tells us when they're coming, to look at it as, okay, together, is there any solve for this issue? Like, is there anything that we're hoping that there's resolution? Do I even need to be annoyed by this? Like, does it really impact me that much?
Mhm.
What is what is the move here? Because what we find from the Gottman Institute is that it's like 60% or maybe even higher
Yeah.
of conflicts really actually don't even have a
Yeah.
resolution,
Unsolvable. Mhm.
unsolvable. So there was just some changes in attitude for both of us when we're dealing with, okay, like, yeah, it would be nice to know when your parents are coming and going, but does it really matter? At the end of the day, no. At the end of the day, I learned to appreciate how much they do for us, especially, nowadays having these 3 boys that are pretty wild, how they want to be there for us. So, sometimes it really is changing your lens on something, not taking like, obviously, we understand boundaries, and sometimes you do need to put things in place, but I think it just gets a little bit hard when you're like, "Your family,"
Yes.
because really
Yes.
it's our
It's
family
right.
now. It's our family. I love his parents so much. I love his brother. I want to navigate those relationships the best that I can. So it's no longer, and I'm not perfect at it.
We're always the podcast that will say we are always growing. We are always
But
growing.
I do really try to see it instead of being like your family, to see it more as our family and to see our problems as like, okay, how do we solve this so that both of us feel good about the problem solving?
When you're thinking and talking about the unsolvable problems and what other people are doing, it also brought up in my mind that we can't always change that other person. We can let them know, hey, text us beforehand. We would really
Mhm.
appreciate if as you're leaving the door, you sent this message, or as you're driving, you gave us a phone call. We can't always change them. So sometimes Colin and I will just look at each other and say, you know what?
Dad's here.
Dad's here. And we almost make a joke about it because
Yes.
it's not his fault. It's not
Yeah.
my fault. It's another person involved. And then we
Right.
also say, we're just not going to do that. Like, we're going to
Yeah.
grow a family that we're not going to do
Yeah.
that. And also, okay, that's super annoying. I'm going to make sure that I will always be texting somebody I'm on my way.
I think about that so much, like the type of in-laws that we'll wanna be, and the truth of the
Yes.
matter
Mhm.
is we all need to humble ourselves because we're gonna do things that upset our future daughter and son-in-laws. Like, of course, we can be really cognizant and we can do a really great job, but we're not gonna get it perfect.
Yeah.
So that's the nature of being in a relationship.
Well, and those daughter-in-laws, those son-in-laws that we are going to have in the future, they could like completely different
I know,
things. Like,
that's the
they could
thing. It's
maybe
like,
want more distance. They could maybe
yeah,
want you there all the time. They could
right.
maybe want you to always bring the food. They could be the ones
They
that want to
expect
cook.
you to watch
The
the kids for a 7-day vacation, like,
Yeah.
it just we don't know who is to come or what is gonna be the new trend,
We know what we like,
It's a
but they
little
might
bit
like
of
something
groupthink
different.
when you think about it, like, the
The
different
generation,
generations, like,
yes.
there's groupthink in each generation, and then you're looking for that issue. That's another podcast. Okay, what's your second point?
The second one I want to bring up is about how we can and we will change. So we are always going to be
Mhm.
changing. It is part of life. But I've seen this happen in our own families. You do need to change and grow together. We have seen couples that they just start, and the YouTube users can see this, but they can just start moving in one direction and the other person just goes slightly off angle. And then after a year or 2, it's not that big of a deal. But after 5 years, after 10 years, after 20 years, when your kids leave the house, you literally can look at a complete stranger because you're so far off track from what that person has been doing. And it can start off as little things like,
Wait, can I ask a
yeah,
question? I think this one's hard. I agree with the point. I absolutely do, but I'm like, this gets hard because we have friends, we've seen marriages where one person starts changing and the other person doesn't change. So say, for example, one person starts to get really, really healthy.
yep,
They're working out, they're eating right, they're doing everything. And then they're looking at the other person like, please move your body,
mhm,
please eat better. And the other person's like, I'm doing what we always did. You're doing something new. And now you're mad at me. I think it just gets really hard. And sometimes in relationships, we're just really lucky to be with someone that might be on a more similar path. Like when the paths start to divert and there's no good way to bring them together, that's when I'm like, that's
that's where it gets
really
hard.
freaking hard.
And that's where if somebody's on such a health journey, I mean, I can even think with Colin and I, like I would go for a walk every hour of the day if I could, where he gets out of the office maybe once or twice a week for 10 minutes. And those are the types of things where I look at him and I say, you would just feel so much better. And he looks at
I know
me,
what's good for
I
you.
know what you're going to like. Okay. And you're going to like it. But he's the type of person that won't do that. So we do try to find something else in that same category. So can we both lift together? Can I encourage him to lift more? Can I encourage him to go to sleep a little bit earlier? So those are the things I'm like, it is a health based thing. like live in dream health. I would just want to be, I
Mhm.
want to feel and be well and have longevity like no other. He wants to be healthy and fit. And it's just not as important, all the little details along the way. So I could
Well,
see that.
I do think too it's just hard because the different schedules allow different
And
things
that's true
too.
too.
So it's
Hmm.
so easy to be like, I can walk and we all could go for a walk, but I do think it's just it can be really challenging.
Yeah, and it could be with friends too. So somebody has a group of friends, and another person has a different group of friends, and if you keep on hanging out with them, and then they never overlap, and all of a sudden you realize all of your free time is spent in completely different groups of people. It could be with finances. I think finances
Mhm.
is probably trickier. That one I do think we need to be more aligned with, because if one person's just starts spending like crazy
Right.
and the other person's trying to save like crazy,
That's like life impacting.
is so impactful and
That's that's life impacting.
brings that all in.
Here is what I think too is that the guys have come on the podcast before and they've talked about how much the two of us have changed.
Right.
And they've been so supportive. And so for us, it was basically huge changes in our careers.
Mhm.
From I was a nurse, you were a salesperson. Is that how you say it?
Sure. Yep, there we go. Uh-huh.
A corporate saleswoman. And so there can be big changes, but I think instead of thinking like I married a nurse, like you married the person may have shifted. If it doesn't negatively impact the family, can you look for the positives about it? Can you be supportive? Can you like really try to understand why they want that change?
Yeah. Well, I can even think about it with the start of herself. Like, I went away from corporate America, a very big girl job. I loved it. A lot of hours, great paycheck, to taking herself full time, which
Mhm.
was a definite pay cut, but the
Mhm.
hours were also a lot less.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, I was really excited for the freedom and flexibility that I thought I was going to have, because I was able to bring Owen to all of his doctor appointments. I was able to, I mean, it was a lot of Owen stuff
Yeah.
because he had a lot of care needs that first year of his life. And then after that first year, when things got a little bit easier for him, I wanted more, and herself started to grow. It started to get really
Yeah.
exciting. We had, more downloads, more followers, more sponsorship opportunities. We started growing the business side of it more, and that was really exciting. And
Yeah.
I remember Colin, we had a lot of conversations during that time because I was asking for more childcare help or for more
Yeah.
help at home. And he goes, "Yeah, but when you left, this was the thought process, was that you were going to be the main one doing all of this." I said, "I know. And now that's changed." And
Mm.
so that was, I would rather have, I think with this one, I would rather have the really hard and tough
Mhm.
conversations in the season, maybe not in that very second, but in the season, rather than waiting a couple of years,
Mhm.
5 years. And then all of a sudden you're looking at that person thinking, can we even get back to where we could even
Yeah.
be close at this point? And I think that's where it gets really tricky, is that a lot of times we just go too long and too far. And then it's really, really hard to come
Mhm.
back together.
Yeah, sometimes having the hard conversation is so hard, but it's worth it because you both have to understand where each other is coming
Hmm.
from when it comes to wanting a big change
Yeah.
so that you can really
Yeah.
understand it and work through it and see like maybe you have to compromise a little bit
And that's
as goes
as
marriage.
goes marriage, as goes marriage. Okay, what about you? Number 3.
Okay. This one I also think I heard from the Gottman Institute because I used to like devour their I feel like when the kids were really little, I was super into learning about marriage because I do think that was a really challenging season. And for me, I think it was most challenging on the demand side. Like I was just so demanded at work, on the home front, and then your partner's still looking at you like they still want to spend time with you and they
Yeah.
still want,
Mhm.
you know. So that's when I got really into it. And this one is to let the other person have a positive influence on you. And as John Gottman says, the most healthy marriages, you'll see that you're open to your partner having a positive influence on you. So I've already talked about at length in my first point, like one of the huge positive influences that Drew has made in my life is finances and the way that we handle money and the way that we're setting ourselves up for the future. Now, this could be such a different story. Like, I could have been uncoachable. I could have been, like I could have doubled down. I could have wanted things my way. I could want to spend more money. There just could be a lot of friction there. But the fact that he had a really positive influence and I let myself be influenced. A lot of times we kind of get stuck in the way our parents did something or the way that we used to do things. And I do think that you just have to let your partner have a positive influence on your life. Another area that I was telling Abby, I'm like, okay, let's like spice it up a little bit on the podcast. But another area that I've learned a lot about a lot of guests on the podcast is when it comes to our sex life. And before you have words for something, like you just don't really understand what it is. But if you go back to episode 21 with Vanessa, she explained the different types of sex drives. That'll be transformative. Like if you keep butting heads in your marriage about sex drive, that would be a great episode to listen to. But essentially, especially since I've become a mom, I've been more responsive, which means that I'm not often the one of us to initiate sex or to initiate intimacy. And honestly, sometimes when it's initiated in my head, I'm like, I'm too tired.
Yeah.
Like, I'm too tired, And what I've learned as someone that's more responsive is that it truly is being able to be positively influenced. Like Drew is the initiator. Like a lot of times in my head, I'll be like, I'm too tired. And then I just let it go down the road a little bit further. And then I'm always like, I'm so glad we did that because we feel really connected when that's going well in our lives. So I think for this one, it's like the answer doesn't always have to be yes. Of course, there's times where I'm like, I'm way too tired. There's no chance I'm doing this. But letting him positively influence that part of our lives and not shutting him down has been so helpful in that department. And I think there's a million other ways to be positively maybe your partner is a partner that is working out and eating better than you. And you're like, you know what? Instead of being like, okay, calm down, you could be like, you know what? Should I go on a walk with them? Like, what is this new breakfast you're eating? Like, could I have some? Like, there's so many different ways to have your partner positively influence you. I think it's really important to be open to it.
Well, and we do it with our friends. Like we allow our friends to give us good ideas and recommendations. Why do we have this stronghold sometimes with our partners being like, oh no, what they're doing cannot. I can absolutely not. And it's also interesting because we marry somebody who's different than us.
Right.
Let's use that. Like,
Right.
let's use their strengths. Let's use their great ideas to make our lives better too. Like, that's one of the best parts about marriage is that you can constantly be growing and learning and becoming a little bit better. And why not have your partner help out with that? Like that one. To end this one, I want to say when Colin and I are really in a marriage rut, the one thing that we go back to is we want to make a dream together. And it might be like, okay, what kind of dream? So it could be planning a vacation. It could be doing a house project. It could be at one point we wanted to really nail down and pay off our debt. So we worked really hard towards that. And there was a very long time where every Sunday we would ask each other the question, what can I do to make your life easier? And that question brought up so many different possibilities. I mean, sometimes it was something simple like, oh, I want to rearrange the cupboard. Like a very, very simple, let's go rearrange the cupboard. Tell me what Tupperware you use and I'll toss out the rest. It's how we built our home gym. So we both were feeling really in a rut with working out at one point. This was back at our last house and we looked at each other. We weren't getting to the gym. We weren't feeling motivated. And I brought up, how about we make a gym downstairs? We have a space. We can, get some budget friendly things. We can go to Facebook Marketplace and we built it and it made us feel so much better. And then when we were working on the project together, it was just so much fun. So where in other points you might feel like they're not doing anything or I'd wish that they would do more on the house. I wish they would think about me and what my goals and what's important to me. It's something you can work on together because it's actually important to both of you. So I was talking with Colin about that one last night and he's like, we really have done a lot of things because we got in a rut. Like it didn't start off in like a positive light. It started off like, oh gosh, this is really bugging me. Okay, let's make a change. And then we did some cool things. I mean, we just did a whole bunch of projects to our house. And because we're kind of feeling a rut, we're kind of feeling in this limbo period and we're loving it. Like we love our new carpet. We love our new paint. It's small changes. It's a lot of small changes, but we feel so good right now being there and we did it together. So
I think the thing
like
about that one too is the idea that if your partner doesn't know your goal, they can't help you get
They
there.
can't help you get there.
Or maybe
Make it known.
they don't know that part of you that's like, "I actually really want to accomplish whatever it is," and also the why behind it. Like, that's I think that's part I think that's the part that a lot of us miss because we do live in a very fast-paced society. A lot of us have kids. If you miss the why behind something, the person cannot understand why it's important to you. Versus if we just slow down and you're like, "You know what? The home gym is so important to me because I feel less confident when I'm not working out. I know that I'm not controlling my stress as well. I feel like it would really help."
Yeah.
It's just it's just a more sound way to get what you want, honestly.
You never. I feel like crap all the time because I can never you don't let me get to the gym. I mean,
Yeah.
that was the conversations we were having because our gym was very far away. And then in order to go, we were both traveling at the time. So neither of us could go for a run outside. We didn't have a treadmill in the house. Um, so we couldn't even go for a run outside because we had kids at home and there was only one parent at home. So you couldn't even wake up early to do that. So I remember just thinking in my mind, like, I feel so trapped. I
Yeah.
feel so stuck. And he goes, I do too. So instead of being mad at each other, kind of back to one of your first ones, instead of being mad at each other,
Yeah, what's our
what's our
solution?
solution? Let's figure this out together.
Okay,
So there we
well,
go.
thank you guys as always for listening. Bye.
We'll be back next week.